Today, dude looks like a lady. We're discussing dermal fillers in men. Hi guys, today we're talking about using dermal fillers in men. Why would you bother doing it, and does it look weird afterwards? We're also talking about Botox a little bit, but it's mainly about fillers this episode. Quite often in the clinic, I get guys coming in and they ask for Botox, probably because they don't know what else to ask for. You know, they're bothered by maybe fine lines and wrinkles around the crow's feet or the forehead, but very, very rarely do they actually come in and ask for jawline filler or cheek filler, when actually I think that would make the biggest difference to how they feel. Let's just go over to the iPad straight away so that I can show you my patient. So check out this handsome dude. What can we see? Well, what he's got a lovely strong forehead, very, very masculine upper third. He's got quite a strong brow as well. You can see that the tilt on the brow, very, very slightly canted upwards towards the tail. Maybe just even a little bit too much on this side actually. We can see that he's got good, strong, masculine cheekbones. And by the way, when you're measuring a man's cheek, you do it in a slightly different way to a woman. Let me just draw that for you so you can understand. So let's just pretend that we can see the tragus of his ear here. Then we draw a line up like so. We draw a line across from the tragus to the lower part of the nose in a man, and then down like this in a man. And the highest part of the cheek should be in a guy, this area right here. It doesn't work so well because it's flat. It looks much better on a real person. But on a woman, this would be slightly more tilted in this direction. So on a man, you want the cheek to be a little bit lower and probably a bit more medial, which means like more towards the front of the face. On a man, we measure the distance in between the eyes, same as we do in a woman, and the width of the chin should be the phi of that. So remember that golden proportion ratio, 1.1618. So we measure here, and then this should be the phi of the distance in between the eyes. On this chap here, it's a little bit too small, so we need to widen his jawline slightly. We also need to give him a bit more strength, I think, to the jawline. He can definitely take a bit of crisping up here, don't you think? Next thing is the chin crease. So you see he's got this line right across his chin here. That's because his lower facial third is just a wee bit short. So on a man, you really want that lower facial third to be in good proportion, and it's just a little bit too short on him. So what we need to do is lengthen the chin, crisp up that jawline, and just really give him that action man style Gillette jawline that you can, I don't know, you can sharpen a knife on. On this patient, we need to be careful because he's got a cleft in the middle of his chin, and if we get rid of that cleft, it might look a little bit weird and quite suspicious. So you can see that what I'm doing is adding volume on either side of the cleft, but respecting where the cleft is, so he still has that at the end of his treatment. We get this cleft because the muscle is bifid. It means it goes into two different points. Instead of being kind of like one fan like this, it splits up and then there's a gap in the middle. Next, check out the angle of the jaw. You can see that I'm doing this in a very different way to how I would augment for a woman. So on a female, I prefer going into the very superficial layers of the skin. But on a guy, I think it looks much better if you're injecting deep. So can you see here, I'm going deep right down to the bone, which sounds really grim, but you can't really feel it. There's anesthetic inside the product. And the reason is we really want to crisp up that jawline. I'm also using a slightly heavier product. So I'm using something called Radiesse here, which is not a hyaluronic acid filler. It's calcium hydroxyapatite, which is the same product that your teeth and bones are made of. So it behaves in a slightly different way. You get a much crisper result when you use the Radiesse. Interestingly, the Radiesse has recently only become available with lignocaine. It used to be that we would have to mix it ourselves, which, as anybody knows, doctors can be kind of lazy. So thank goodness they brought it out with lignocaine. We put in a whole bunch of product here. So you can see that the lower facial third, so the chin, is now much longer. And we've also augmented the jawline at the angle of the jaw, and also using a cannula, we're going to go ahead and just crisp up that jawline a little bit more there. So we're going to go using the cannula straight ahead. On this patient, we've also done some Botox because he was originally thinking that he'd like to reduce his line a little bit across his forehead. You can see we've done the frown lines, the forehead, and the crow's feet for him. So let's go over and have a look at his before and afters. Okay, so just picking up from that last point regarding the Botox, can you see that this line here, very slightly diminished? So I don't like to get rid of all lines on men. I think it looks really weird. So we use some very judicious toxin here. On a woman, you'll often use Botox to elevate the brow slightly, but on a guy, you really don't want to do that. You want to make sure that the brow position stays the same. And on him, he's already got a bit of a kick here, so thankfully we were able to just keep it about the same. Look at this. You see this rounded angle here of his jawline? You can see that we have really crisped that up there. It looks nice and straight now. And you can see that this distance is now much longer than this one. We've also helped to remove this chin crease. It looks much better here, but we've got the dimple because that's him, you know, that's his feature. We've got to keep the dimple. Don't you think that at some point in the future it might be quite interesting to do maybe a little bit of lip augmentation for him? Maybe just extend that upper lip slightly, give a bit more volume there. We didn't do that this time, but looking at these pictures, I'm thinking it might look quite good on him. We actually haven't touched his cheekbone at all, but we've just made the lower part of his face wider. So it looks like his head is a wee bit squarer, which is a masculinizing trait. So we can see in the before picture, he's got a tiny bit of a tilt in the lower lip. It's just slightly canted, but in the after, not so much. It looks pretty much straight now. And we've improved this width of the chin. It looks much wider now. And check out this angle right here. I think the whole thing just looks kind of a bit fresher. He looks basically like he's been in the gym for the past 3 months, bulking up, getting, you know, proper stacked. Tonked is apparently a word for that, just like my surname. Sadly, I am not tonked. People often worry that using dermal fillers are gonna change the way that you smile or the way that the muscles of facial expression work, but you know, you can see that he can still smile afterwards. He still looks really good. We did do some Botox around the crow's feet, so can you see these little lines here? They're still there, but they're slightly improved, which is really my preference when I'm treating this area. I really don't like to get rid of all those lines because they're a positive feature. You got them from smiling, and who doesn't want to be a smiler? That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video on using dermal fillers in men. Join me again next week where we've got more of the same. If there's anything you'd like to see in the meantime, just let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.